Welcome to the TechFace podcast. We at TechFace are all about connecting female tech communities with companies to support their members finding a meaningful career in tech. In this podcast, we interview women who have a meaningful career in tech to inspire your own journey. Let's listen to our next guest on this episode. Today we have as our guests Bibiana, and she is now going to quickly introduce herself, and also she will tell us how we actually met.
Sure thing. Many thanks, Priska. So my name is Bibiana Bucher. I am 39 years old, and I work in an IT sales position currently. And we met actually through a mutual friend. Bit of a long story. I went to my friend's wedding in Fiji, and I knew the friend because I had lived in Australia. There I met a friend of the husband to be, and she told me she knows somebody who actually lives in my hometown. She hooked us up on Facebook, introduced us, so I came, and when I was back here, I said, wrote to you, and then we met up, and since then we both realized we're quite international and we like hanging out. So.
Exactly. So that's how we started to getting to know each other better. And then I soon realized as well that Bibiana is one of the tech women. Also, I see her as a role model for our candidates and members of the community. And that's why I invited her today for this podcast.
Cool. It's an honor.
You're welcome. So, Bibiana, I know from your background that you haven't been working all your life in tech. So you're also one of these women who moved into tech. Could you quickly please tell us a little bit about what you were doing before and how you ended up in tech? So what kind of roles have you taken on in the tech industry?
Sure. Well, I didn't start off in tech, that's for sure. I didn't have a very straight background. I studied law and psychology and worked in different fields. Before working in the tech industry, I actually had worked in an insurance company or in various insurance companies and a bank. And I wasn't even that keen, or I didn't really care where I was going to work. I was working in HR, so the industry didn't matter to me so much. But I saw this great job at HP, and that's where I applied and I got in. And so there I was working for 5 years in a HR role, business generalist and business partner afterwards as well on a regional level. And since 2 years now, a little bit over 2 years, I'm actually a server sales specialist. So that's when I fully went into the tech space. Yes.
Yeah, this sounds like a really big change, and it's amazing that someone is given this opportunity, especially in this kind of companies. But what was your reason to change? Why did you move into this kind of role, into the sales role, and more a techie role, away from the HR role?
It is definitely a very big change. That's very true. I moved in because in my HR role, I was consulting the management team, giving them HR advice, and the sales manager came to me and told me, actually in a joking way, he asked me, Bibiana, when are you going to join my sales team? And I just thought, he's nuts. But somehow it just stayed with me. And then I wrote to him and said, was this really, do you mean this? And he said, yeah, for sure. And then we met up again and spoke about it. And I decided that I'd go ahead and do it. And why did I do it? After 5 years in the HR role, I was just keen on a change. I was first focusing more on HR roles. Inside the company was a bit hard to transition, find something new. Mm-hmm. I already had an international role at that time, and there just weren't in Switzerland that many possibilities that I saw. And somehow when I was given this opportunity, I thought, I'm just going to try it. I don't know, I'm never going to get this type of opportunity again. Yeah. Because if I would want to get that job coming from outside, nobody would have ever given me that job. Yeah. So I just thought this is a super cool opportunity, and I would just grab it.
Yeah. Great, but I think it's amazing to see as well that your or the sales manager saw this kind of potential in you, even though you said it was a joke when he said, come and join my team. I guess in every joke is a little bit of truth in it. So he must have seen something that made him say this and inviting you. But what do you think was your, what ticked you then afterwards when you said, okay, I want to go and talk to him about it, not in a joke way, but in a more serious way? What was it that made you to give this kick?
Well, for one, I'm quite curious and I'm open to new things. I like stuff being thrown at me and change, and so it was kind of like this little bait, this little challenge. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I think I'm gonna try it. And well, I spoke to other people who were doing the job and kind of, asking them, do you think I could do this? And they were like, yeah, sure you can. And I got more and more confident. So I did my research as well before I said yes. And I think it was really the curiosity and the kick for trying something new.
Yeah, that's great, because I think being curious about tech and about not only tech, but changing jobs is the one thing. It's a skill everybody should present when they move on into the career or change career. So it should be also taken from the recruiter's point of view, saying, oh, there's someone really curious, we should make sure we can satisfy this curiosity as well. What do you love about your job right now? What is it that gets you going in the morning when you go to work?
So from my psychology background, I have a huge interest in people, and that's still the driving factor. So for me, I love working with people. I really enjoy working with our customers. Of course, there are always difficult situations. We get challenged. There's also procurement, so not always easy contacts, right? So it's not just always fun working with people, obviously. But I enjoy that. I'm interested in people, genuinely interested in people. And so that's one thing that I love. And also, I love being at the forefront of innovation. I love being in the know of what's around the corner, what's happening, what kind of technologies are coming out. And this is a bit new for me, because I've not been the type who's like a gadget geek and I always have to have the newest thing. That's not really me. Still not. And that's fine. But I'm very interested in maybe even, again, the psychological aspect of technology and what do we do with it as humans? How does it change us and the way that we communicate and deal with daily life? So I think that is so super fascinating to be in that field.
And I think it's great to see that sometimes you hear when someone works in tech, you imagine this person be a super geek sitting down in his cellar somewhere in the dark on the computer, not having any interaction with the whole world. But it's great to see that actually you put this interaction in front and can combine it with technology as well. And you perfectly show how technology doesn't mean to be just a super geek, but also having this human part in it as well. Where do you see then the future of tech going? Like you already mentioned innovation and forefront of being at the forefront in innovation, where I completely agree with you. But where do you think is the future of tech for you as well as for the rest of the world?
Oh my gosh! Okay, big question. Well, for me, I believe that the role of tech is growing increasingly. So maybe similar to HR, recruitment, other fields in a company, it used to be that IT was of service to the business, but seeing what's happening out there with some of these disruptive tech companies, their business model is tech, and they would be nowhere without tech. And even more classical type companies have recognized that if they want to stay in an industry, not be disrupted, not just sleep, they will have to invest in their technology and they will have to invest in innovation there. So for me, the whole technology area is becoming more and more strategic and in that sense more interesting, because it's going to shape how business is running. So I see a bright future for tech. I think we cannot live without it. What we do have to learn is maybe how to deal with it in a healthy way. So I do see sometimes you have to be conscious of, does the technology control you or do you control the technology?
Yeah, fully agree to that. And what would you recommend then to our listeners if these are young women, some of them already working in tech, some of them would like to go into tech? What would you recommend? What's your top recommendation how to approach the career change into tech?
I think you should have an interest in tech, but like you said, you don't have to be the classical geeky type. There are totally diverse roles within tech. I think that's quite important. So just because you don't think you're the classical tech persona doesn't mean that you shouldn't be open for it. So I think also for people who haven't considered tech roles, now's the time to look at whether there are opportunities for you there. I do believe you need an interest to stay up to speed and see, what is happening. That doesn't mean that you have to, know every detail. It's impossible. There are so many different areas within the tech industry. So now we're on a podcast. Me personally, I love listening to podcasts, and there's one on high performance computing. There's the more general ones about, for example, the Wired podcast. I really like listening to that one. Or then there's like gadgety ones. So really find what you like and then be interested there. Maybe also post about these things that you're learning in social media, write about it, talk to people who are interested in these areas as well. And then by connection, find your niche and find connections into other companies that might, have that kind of job that you're interested in.
Yeah, it's a lot about networking and connections as well in this space. We are lucky that we have a former recruiter here as well. So maybe you can give us from your old position, an old job as being in HR, some insights for our listeners. Like, what would a recruiter look out for or would recommend when you go and apply for jobs?
So I need to specify that my main task wasn't mainly recruiting. So I was more there when we already were inviting the people. I had the interviews together with the managers. I did graduate recruiting. So there we were quite open. I mean, if there's a profile where we needed somebody to be very technical, then of course, there are certain things that have to be met. But in our company, the main profiles are actually in sort of sales roles, and then there are more technical delivery roles. We're not actually producing any of the products here in Switzerland. I think one of the main things, one of the most important things, especially for the young people, was how independent are they and how much can they learn on their own. Because our company is huge. There are so many processes. You don't always know who to ask, and you can't be shy. So you just have to go and, find your answers if nobody's going to give them to you. And it's not like that people don't want to, but it's just you're not going to get anything on a silver plate in terms of, here's your job, go fill it out. That's not going to happen. But the positive side of that is that you can actually shape your role or a part of your role. And that's really fun as well. So you can be innovative within your own job.
Exactly. So that means also you have to be courageous as well to say, I go and take on a job which might not be yet defined, and I can shape it to what it's fitting to me as well. So you have the opportunity to shape it. Is there anything you say it's complete turn off you recommend not to do, or it's like stand away from when you would like to move into tech? Any not recommendation in that sense? Pitfalls or you can think of?
Not really sure. I guess because the kinds of roles that we have, it's not like you were describing a person alone and a seller. So everybody needs to be at least a little bit of sociable and, and also we have huge open space offices. So you have to be okay with people around you working as well. although we're quite flexible with home office, this kind of stuff. But I think if you're too introverted and prefer being on your own, probably not the right place to go into such a big company.
Okay.
Unless you're in a very, developy role, but we don't have these here. So.
Okay, cool. So before we close this, I'd like to ask you some speed questions, as we call that. And I'm asking you to just answer them with the first thing, more or less, that comes into your mind, because usually that's the one which is true. It's just a simple question. So first one, who is your favorite female role model? Doesn't need to be in tech.
Yeah, that one is so hard. I don't have anybody really close that I could look up to.
Yeah.
And that's a sign. I mean, I really live in a quite male environment when I'm working. I think a really cool woman is Margarete Vestager. I have no idea how you say her name, but she's in the EU Commission, and she did the whole case against Google with the big fine. And I just thought that made her so unpopular. But I think that's just such bravery, and it just shows that she has her standards and her ethics, and she's actually
standing up for your standards.
Yeah. So I think that's cool.
The next question, what is your most important skill?
It's empathy and listening.
Yeah.
So if you want to deal with customers, the most important thing is to actually realize what they want. And no matter how skilled you are, if you're going to talk over them, they're not going to like you.
Yeah.
So, they say people buy from people, and I think that's very true. And the most important thing is to understand what your customer actually wants to achieve. So
cool. And the last one, what was the best advice you were ever given to?
Maybe more of a motto than advice. I got this once from an old housemate that I was living with. He gave me this like a stenciled picture card thingy saying, "They can't eat you." So I think that's the best motto. Like, whatever happens, but it can never be, however catastrophic, nobody can eat you. So go ahead, try stuff, make mistakes, you'll be fine.
Perfect. That's a very good statement to close this podcast. Thanks a lot for being with us today, and we wish you best of luck with your career, and hopefully see more of women like you in different tech jobs. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
Thanks for tuning in today and listening to this inspiring talk on TechFace podcast. Want to be the first to know about the next episode or get first-hand access to our events? Join TechFace and sign up today on techface.ch. As a new member, you will get a free career coaching call and will always be the first to know about exciting events, news, and insights. We look forward to welcoming you as our valued member.